Alright, welcome back to another video here. Sorry I haven't made any in a while. I've actually been sick the last couple of weeks. I got a bad head cold and then it worked its way down into my chest, but so I apologize if I cough any, but finally getting over all of that. And if you follow me on Instagram and all that, I've posted some pictures of putting the tunnel ram together. I didn't video any of it, but I did take lots of pictures, so I may be putting pictures in this video here and there just as reference. But anyways, I guess we'll start at the valve covers. Obviously I painted the valve covers blue, but just kind of gives it a little bit more flavor. And the supercharger that was on here always blocked all the valve covers on this engine, so it never mattered if I painted them or not. You'd never see them, but now you can kind of see them, so I definitely like that. The second thing is, if any of you guys are LS people, then you'll notice that the bracket for the coils is lifted way up. Well, I had to do that to clear the bracket for the butterflies on the hoods on the carburetor scoop. But and when I built all this stuff, I didn't think about the coil bracket, so that's kind of why that's there. And yes, I had to hand build all of this stuff. None of this stuff was anything I bought. I built everything for it, all the brackets, everything for it. So they had a kit that they said would work, but it was $300, and I built all this for, I think the most expensive fittings were these, so they were like $8 a piece. So I probably got maybe $100 into this. But anyways, pretty simple build. It did take me a while to figure it all out. Obviously I just made a bracket and started adding stuff onto it. I didn't have any particular reason why I centered this one here with the tunnel ram leg. That's just kind of where I felt I should weld that area, and then I just put that one there on the end here. So there was no specific reason for that. It all worked out in the end. But I would just go and buy those little set quarter-inch set bushings where they have a little set screw in them, and then drill out a piece of metal and weld those to them, and then bought a bunch of quarter-inch steel bar here, and then just kind of had those where I could tighten them down and kind of get the angles right and stuff and etc., and just kind of built them along there. But obviously I started at the carburetors first. I just had some scrap pieces of metal I started with and just started building from there. The back carburetor, everything is kind of on the back side of everything. The front carburetor, everything's on the front side, but I had the vacuum secondaries I had to clear, but everything clears perfectly. Fuel lines are on. I think I mentioned in previous video I had to cut and shorten this fuel line setup about 1 inch, but I didn't do it to the rear. Maybe a little hard to see, but it's a little bit different on length there. But I got return springs on each one of them. Kind of worked out. I could put them on that other little bar I welded, but I didn't have that option on the front, so I just put them both on the same bar. Same thing, just use these little set screw things here to keep everything from moving back and forth. And when I was building this, I had to make sure everything was just perfectly free, because there's no bushings. This is all just little pieces of stainless steel and stuff made together. So everything had to be perfectly loose as I was building it. And if it wasn't, then I would tweak everything before I globbed it down with some globby weld patches and make it solid. But I put a few little adjustable holes on them, but ended up just having to use the middle one on them. And this one here, I could have just cut it way down, but I never messed with it, just left it alone. But yeah, everything's adjustable on them. So all these are threaded. I made these little bars myself, and like I said, same thing with everything. Just kind of hand built everything. put it all down here. Had to figure out the length of this. Luckily, this little arm here's, it's splined so you can put it anywhere, but, so, I mean, full throttle, it's exactly centered. Well, it's a little higher, but it's good enough. I guess if I really want to, I can adjust it some, but, not too worried about that. Same thing with this. It was just building a bar with adjustability on it and going for there. I think the hardest thing on all of this was doing the throttle cable, because I had to build a gas pedal and all that stuff. And it's not a pretty gas pedal, but it works. Sorry about the light here. I had a flashlight over here, but I don't know what I did with it. So anyways, if you can kind of see up there, this is actually the gas pedal of the Junkyard Javelin, which had a cable style. The AMX had like a bracket style. So that's what that square hole is. That hole is just floating over, so I'm going to have to put a piece of metal back there anyways. But it's got a nice, good return on it. Sounds like the cable's rubbing, but it actually isn't. It just makes a bunch of noise. I'm not sure why it makes so much noise. But that's with all that on there. And then I think in the previous video I talked about this was the wrong top to begin with that I got with this tunnel ram from my buddy. And we had to cut it and do some notching and stuff on it, and then we had to add these plates on there to put these Summit carburetors. And then these were threaded on this side, and this was threaded, so I had to drill all of these out. Well, not the front ones, but I had to drill them all out around the sides, and then cut and put the little gasket in there. And then the adapters from going from the square port to the cathedral port. Got those all put on there. And there's no gaskets, they're all just little cutout O-ring type of things. So, or O-ring gaskets. And then you kind of have to fit them perfectly in there. They're kind of squared. But I think I got a picture of that. And yeah, and then obviously everybody that voted on Facebook wanted the emblem off of the Supercharger. They wanted it right there in the scoop, so it's permanently on there. That's where it's at. Same thing on this side. Coil pack is lifted up. I'm going to have to do some modifications to that rear one because obviously it's touching the heater motor. And then I'm thinking that I found some links and pictures of some other modifications people have done with these LS swaps into these AMCs. And I think there's actually a set of long tube headers that we can get in here. Now in the past I've always, we've dynoed these and these weren't making a whole lot less than long tube headers, but since we're going to run nitrous through it, I've been recommended by pretty much every race outfit I've talked to, Brian Tooley Racing, all that stuff, that long tube headers are going to be what I'm going to want to run on this if possible. So I am probably going to figure out how to do that, but obviously I'm going to have to get rid of the trailing arms or whatever you call those things that attach down those things there. But they do make an adjustable one that you weld to the body. So been looking at that stuff, probably going to have to modify that. I obviously don't have the nitrous plates on this yet, but I've got all the adjustability to make up for any plate spacing I do on this. And then as far as the camshaft goes, we still have the Supercharger camshaft in here. We're going to have to pull that out. And we've been told to put in a LS3 stage 4 cam, which if a lot of you have ever done research on those stage 4 cams for these LS motors are really not a good cam to run on a small displacement. So they really recommend anything over 400 cubic inches for a stage 4. This is still technically a 364 cubic inch motor. So, you know, and I asked them that too. Well, I read you're not supposed to run those, but they told me running nitrous through this motor with this tunnel ram, you know, since we do have a little bit of a stroked rods in this and forged pistons and all that stuff, they told me that stage 4 is going to be the best cam for this, and they said it's really going to really come to life when you throw some nitrous at it. So that's the cam we're going to be running. And then more than likely I'm going to be finally putting in a different torque converter. Probably going to run they told me to run somewhere between 3000 to 3500 stall converter on this. They told me the 3000 would be the best if I plan on driving this on the street anywhere. But so yeah, that's kind of where we're at with the AMX right now on the tunnel ram build. And we're going to start getting after the Gremlin here soon. I just got to order a few more parts for that, but we got plenty of time to finish this build. I mean, it's only November, it's the end of November, but we got plenty of time to mess with this car. I just want to get the big part of it established and everything bought while I can. As a lot of you know, parts are starting to get a little scarce right now. If they don't have them in stock, you're going to be waiting a while. So that was one of the bigger reasons on getting some of this stuff ordered. I got lucky with the tunnel ram, of course, but the rest of that stuff was getting a little harder to get. This, we don't have a whole lot to order. I just got to order a camshaft and head gaskets and pretty common stuff, so this one shouldn't be too tough to mess with because it's going to get that 6-liter LS over there in the corner put into it. And then the 4.8 that's in there, like I said, it's a pretty low mileage 4.8 and it just runs really good. I did a vote on the Facebook group page, which I was very surprised about because I got a little bit of people upset that I didn't go back to an AMC motor in that, so I made a poll on Facebook on the Junkyard Javelin whether we should put a AMC motor back in it. The 401 I had available that I was going to I put as an option for the AMX when I was going to build it. It turns out to be just not even buildable. It's not a good motor at all. And no, there's nothing salvage. There's a rod hanging out of the side of it and the crank is really bad. So anyways, for anybody ask about parts off of that, it's a junk motor. I guess 7 rods might be okay. But anyways, put up the vote on it to put an AMC 360 in this because I got a P-code 360 or a LS 4.8 turbo, and I mean it was a landslide to the LS turbo. Only a few people voted for the AMC motor, so I thought that was kind of interesting. So anyways, my point is the 4.8 out of the Gremlin is probably going to make its way into this with the turbo on it. But as being said, parts are getting hard to get. This project may take a little longer than I hope. I was hoping to have it ready for maybe Bonneville, which it could still possibly be ready for that. The problem I'm running into on the Junkyard Javelin is just getting all the metal and getting some other parts that are hard to come by that I got to kind of have for it, found and bought, you know. But we'll get her. We'll get after her and get something built on it. I have I either have an idea of just putting a straight axle on this and getting rid of all the suspension and just going some small leaf springs. And the reason I might do that is because there is a Javelin that runs Bonneville, a 68 or 69. I don't know what year it is. And that's what he did. To because he couldn't get the parts for the suspension and everything. He just ended up building a little leaf spring set up on the front with a straight axle, and it's not lifted or anything. You wouldn't even know it had a straight axle under it unless you climbed under it and looked at it. So that could be an option, just to really open up some of the undercarriage of the car if I'm going to be trying to put a turbo and all that stuff in there. And then the other issue is, do I put a Ford 9-inch rear end in this car? Because I don't know that this 6-cylinder axle is going to really handle a whole lot of abuse. I'm actually very impressed with that 6-cylinder axle on this Gremlin. I mean, it's only a one-wheel wonder, but it's handled all the wife's abusive driving through the summer and all her racing and stuff, and she would drive it from here 120 miles to the racetrack, race it, and drive it back home, and that rear end is still perfect. I'm really surprised with that, but I have a feeling with the stage 2 cam and that 6-liter, we might be saying goodbye to a rear end in this, but I've also been told by quite a few people a Ford Explorer 8.8 rear end will fit under these Gremlins pretty easily, so might be an option to look at. And then I'll probably maybe change out the rear gearing in the AMX. I don't know, just have to kind of see how things are going. If I could find another V8 AMC rear end, I could take the 291 gears out of this AMX and put an AMC rear end in the Junkyard Javelin and run that, but like I said, you got to find the stuff first, and being up here there's not hardly anything floating around for AMC, so but yeah. And then I mentioned in the last video we got to fix the Junkyard Jeep 401. Hopefully within the next few weeks we'll get a video out on that. We're going to try to do something fun with fixing the head gasket up there in the cold, up there in the mountains where it's at, because there's no heater, there's no shop, and there's no shelter. It's just going to have to be fixed right where it's sitting. So that should be kind of a fun one to do. But yep, I suppose before I end this video, we'll have a look at the throttle in action. I'd have to say it's pretty smooth. It's got an excellent return on it, and like I said, I've only got 2 return springs on there, so it may require me to put a third one on here, so I'm actually going to kind of pre-build something for a third spring for the drag strip. But all in all, it's working pretty good. Probably get rid of this hokey bracket that had the old fuel pressure regulator for the supercharger. I mean, I set to run a fuel regulator, but probably be able to build something a little bit nicer on the motor itself, because I always got a bunch of crap at the drag. Well, actually I only got crap at one drag strip ever for having a fuel regulator here, because they claimed that was bolted on the firewall. But anyways, if I ever go back to that drag strip, which is a big if, I won't be able to say anything about that, but I'm sure they'll find some other reason why we can't race. The only drag strip I've ever been to ever, or any competition with this car, and they were the only ones that ever said car can't pass, but I can go to Bonneville and run this car with no problems. So I don't know. But oh, and lastly too, if you've been following Facebook, we finally got somebody to laser cut all of our motor mounts. So motor mounts are now way cheaper than they used to be. We're just waiting for our first batch to come in. Of course, I hit those guys at the wrong time, holidays and all that, so hopefully I don't have to sit here and hand cut motor mounts anymore and spend 4 hours making one set, 1.5 sets, and I can start getting these things out a lot quicker. I mean, they're going to laser cut everything, so all I got to do is weld them together and ship them out to you guys. The V8 mounts, LS to AMC V8 cross member, or AMC to AMC V8 cross member as a direct replacement mount, is 165 shipped now. And then the LS to inline AMC cross member, or AMC V8 to AMC inline cross member, are now 200 shipped. They used to be 250 shipped, and they used to be 375 shipped. So definitely shaved off some money off of them, and we're able to get as much as we want. I can do 5, 10, 20, 30 sets at a time. So all right, well, with all that being said, I guess that's kind of the quick update video. Hope everybody had a good holiday, and like I said, hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll have another video out here soon of something different other than the same stuff all the time. Hopefully something on the Jeep, and we'll start making a video on this Gremlin here soon too. So keep your eyes open for all that stuff. And like I said, you have any questions on motor mounts or anything like that, feel free to look us up on 68_AMX_LS on Facebook groups or on Instagram. So, all right, well, we'll see you guys in the next video.